Are you ready too, cat? Silly cat. This one is...
a cat story.
It is. It's Puss in Boots. Are you ready? Once upon a time, there was a poor miller who had 3 sons. The years went by and the miller died, leaving nothing but his mill, his donkey, and a cat. The eldest son took the mill, the second-born son rode off on the donkey, and the youngest son, all he got was a cat. "Oh, well," says the youngest son, "I guess I'll have to eat this cat and make some mittens out of its fur, and then I'll have nothing left in the world at all and shall just die of hunger." That's sad, huh? Well, the cat was listening to his master complain like this, but he pretended not to have heard anything at all. Instead, he put on a serious face and said, "Do not look so sad, master. Just give me a bag and a pair of boots, and I will show you that you do not receive such a poor inheritance in me. Oh, that you did not receive such a poor inheritance in me." The cat's master had often seen him play a great many cunning tricks to catch rats and mice. Thinking this over, he thought that it wasn't impossible that the cat could help him out after all. So he gave the cat his bag and spent his last pennies on ordering a fine pair of boots to be made especially for the cat. The cat looked very gallant in its boots. Putting the bag around his neck, he held the strings of it in his 2 forepaws and laid by a rabbit warren, which was home to many rabbits. He had put bran and corn in the bag, and stretching out as if he were dead, he waited for some of the young rabbits to come. Not long after he lay down, he had what he'd wanted. A rash and foolish young rabbit jumped into the bag, and Monsieur Puss immediately closed the strings and caught him. Proud of his prey, he went with it into the palace and asked to speak with his majesty. He was shown upstairs to the king's apartment, and making a low bow, said to him...
What did you say before?
A low bow.
A low bow?
Yeah, he bowed really low. He said to him, "I have brought you, sir, a rabbit of the warren, which my noble lord, the Marquis of Carabas, has commanded me to present to your majesty from him." "Well, tell your master," says the king, "that I thank him and that he does me a great deal of pleasure." Well, another time he went and hid himself in a cornfield, holding his bag open, when 2 partridges ran into it. He drew the strings and so caught them both, and he went and made a present of these to the king as well, as he had done the rabbit before it. The king, as before, received the partridges with great pleasure and gave him some money. In this way, for 2 or 3 months, the cat continued to bring presents to the king, always saying that they were from his master, the Marquis of Carabas, until one day he heard at the palace that the king was planning to drive in his carriage along the riverbank, taking with him his daughter, the most beautiful princess in the world, but still not as beautiful as you, my Princess Aria. Puss in Boots said to his master, "If you follow my advice, your fortune is made. You have nothing else to do but go and wash yourself in the river. Leave the rest to me." The miller's son did what the cat advised him to do, without knowing why. While he was washing, the king passed by, and the cat began to cry out, "Help, help! My lord, the Marquis of Carabas, is going to be drowned." At this noise, the king put his head out in the coach window, and finding it was the cat who had so often brought him presents, he commanded his guards to run immediately to the assistance of his lordship, the Marquis of Carabas. While they were drawing the poor Marquis out of the river, the cat came up to the coach and told the king that while his master was washing, there came some rogues who went off with his clothes. The cunning cat had hidden the clothes under the great stone. The king immediately commanded the officers of his wardrobe to run and fetch some of his best suits for the Lord Marquis of Carabas. The king was very pleased to meet the Marquis of Carabas finally, and the fine clothes he had given him suited him very well. For although poor, he was a very handsome fellow. And the king's daughter took a secret liking to him. Ooh. The king invited him to come sit in the coach and ride along with them, with the guards in glittering uniform trotting alongside. The cat, quite overjoyed, marched on before them. Meeting with some men who were mowing a meadow, he said to them, "Good people, if you do not tell the king that the meadow you mow belongs to the Lord Marquis of Carabas, those soldiers will chop you up like herbs for the pot." The king did not fail to ask the mowers whom the meadow they were mowing belonged to. "Oh, to the Lord Marquis of Carabas," they all answered together. Then the cat, who was still marching on ahead, met with some reapers and said to them, "Good people, if you do not tell the king that all this corn belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, you should be chopped up like herbs for the pot." And the king, who passed by a moment after, wished to know whom all that corn belonged to. And they said, "To the Lord Marquis of Carabas," replied the reapers. And the king was very well pleased, as was the Marquis, who he congratulated. Then the king said, "Let us now go to your castle." The miller's son, not knowing what to reply, looked at the puss and said, "If your majesty will but wait an hour, I'll go on before and order the castle be made ready for you." With that he jumped away and went to the castle of a great ogre and asked to see him, saying he could not pass so near his home without having the honor of paying his respects. The ogre received him as politely as an ogre could and made him to sit down. "I have been assured," said the cat, "that you have the gift of being able to change yourself into all sorts of creatures that you wish. You can, for example, change yourself into a lion. Is that true?" "Oh, that is true," says the ogre. "And to convince you, you shall see me now become a lion." Poof! He was a giant lion. Roar!
Wait, who became a giant lion?
The ogre did.
How?
Because he's magic. Woo!
And it's
Well.
just a fairy tale.
I know. Well, the cat was so terrified at the sight of the lion so near to him that he immediately climbed up the curtains. Not without difficulty, because his boots were no use for climbing. After a little while, when the puss saw that the ogre was resumed his natural form, he came down and admitted he had been very frightened. "However," says the cat, "I fear that you will not be able to save yourself even in the form of a lion, for the king is coming with his army and means to destroy you." The ogre looked out the window and saw the king waiting outside with his soldiers and said, "What shall I do? How shall I save myself?" The puss replied, "If you can also change yourself into something small, then you could probably hide." In an instant, the ogre turned himself into a mouse and began to run about on the floor. Well, the puss no sooner saw this than he jumped on him and ate him.
Who?
Yeah, the cat ate the ogre because the ogre was like pretend to be a mouse. He's like, "Ooh." Then the puss ran out and said to the king, "Your majesty is welcome in this castle of the Lord Marquis of Carabas." "Wait, my Lord Marquis," cried the king, "does this castle also belong to you? There could be nothing finer. Let us go inside, if you please." The Marquis gave his hand to the princess and followed the king, who went in first. They passed into a spacious hall where they found a magnificent rum punch, which the ogre had prepared for his friends, who were there that very day to visit him. The friends, however, dared not to enter, knowing the king was there. His majesty was perfectly charmed with the good qualities of the Lord of Marquis of Carabas, as was his daughter, who had fallen violently in love with him. Oh dear! That's the worst kind of love, violent love. Seeing the vast estate he possessed, the king, having drank 5 or 6 glasses of punch, said to him, "If you do not, my lord Marquis, become my son-in-law, it will be of your own choosing." The Marquis made several low bows and accepted the honor, and that very same day he married the princess. As for the cat, he became a great lord, and never ran after mice ever again. Well, except for pleasure.
Why?
Because he didn't have to. He was a rich cat, but sometimes he wanted to hunt a mouse.
Why?
Because it's a silly cat. I don't know. Love you.
One more story.
Maybe